So this is the Art and Change grant. If you were looking at the PDF, and you have the full version, the first few pages are guidelines, which essentially summarize some of the things I'm going to talk about in this info session. So if you go to the first page of the actual application that says Leeway Grant application, the first 2 pages are just collecting some data about you. This is all confidential that stays inside here at Leeway. I want to point out that there are 2 fields for your name. One is your artist name and the other is your legal or preferred name. And this is for folks who may be living with a name that is different than what was assigned to them at birth. The legal name does not get shared with the panel. The only place it goes is sort of in a back end of our database. It's not even in the front. And it is only used in the event that you get the award and we need to write you a check. So that's the only reason we collect that. The rest of this is just basic information about your address, contact information for us to be in touch. And then some information that just helps give us feedback about the kind of outreach that we're doing, of how you found out about the award, things like that. And then you'll see that we have 2 types of documentation that we need for the Art and Change grant. One is age documentation. So this can be a copy of your driver's license, your passport, birth certificate, something else that gives us, that is official, that gives us your date of birth. And then the other is your residency. And we are not looking for citizenship or immigration residency. We just need proof of some sort of official mail that is coming to the address locally so that we know that you are living here. If you are in a situation where you don't have any utility bills or health insurance coming to your house's address and you're not on a lease, for example, there are other workarounds of what we can do. So you can be in touch with me if there are any challenges around the documentation that you have to provide. The next section of the application is the project information section. And this is, the first part of it is asking how much money you are requesting. The grant is up to $2,500, and I encourage you to ask for the full amount unless you don't need it for some reason. And some people sometimes feel like they have to be extra precise, like they want $2,482.67. And we're not looking for that level of exactness, really. You can just ask for the full $2,500, and when we get to the budget section, we'll talk about how you're just going to give the panel a sense of how you might spend that money. You will, the grant is an all or nothing grant. So for example, if you apply for $2,500, we'll either give you the full $2,500 or we'll give you nothing. There wouldn't be a situation where the panel would just say, well, we'll just give her 1,000 of that $2,500. The second field there is the change partner. And I'm going to put a pin in that and come back to that later in describing the application. The next sections are asking for the project start date and the project end date. Now, this is not necessarily meant to be super exact. It's more to give us a sense of the scale and duration of the project. And we understand that sometimes there's some shifts that might cause you to delay the start or have to extend the length of the project. But it's more to give the panel a sense of, like, are you trying to do 50 portraits over a course of 3 months? That might be a little ambitious and unrealistic. And so they want to get a sense of how much time you think this project might take. Now, we do fund distinct phases of a project, and you are allowed to apply again in another year for a second phase in the same sort of ongoing project. If you are applying for a phase of the project, so let's say, for example, you might be in the pre-production phase of a film where you're doing research, the project dates here should be just for this particular phase of the project, not for the overall production. The other thing to note here is that we do not fund retroactively, which means that we don't fund projects that start before the grant date. So the grant deadline, if you're applying for March 1st, we have a note that it usually takes at least 8 weeks for us to get back to you about whether or not you're awarded. So you don't want your project to start anytime before early May, really, because that will raise questions for the panel of, if you're already starting the project, why do you need the money if you've already started it without us?